All right, so my name is Tchaositself. I spell it T, Tchaositself, but the T is sounding like the D in Django. I'm from the PG County area, and my spirit animal, maybe like a white tiger.
Why?
Because, I mean, it's different, it's rare, it's still good to look at, but it's ferocious. It's still a tiger. You don't mess with it, you know?
Is that a way that you feel about yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you feel like you portray those things?
I have not necessarily a mean side, but there's a ferocious to me when it comes to like goals and attacking things and accomplishments. But at the same time, it's like a cat. You want to chill with a cat. It's kind of cool and chilling, but you don't mess with it because it's still a cat. And it can kind of like take it.
It could possibly scratch you.
It just might. It
might turn into a whole thing.
Yeah.
So what keeps you from attacking? What keeps you in your box?
Just thinking about the consequences of everything. Like, one of my favorite movies is The Butterfly Effect. So I study like what one thing can lead to a whole bunch of other things. So with me constantly overthinking everything, it's like, all right, nah, if I do this, that's gonna happen. I don't wanna do that, let me chill out. Or this person, they kind of trying you, let me just shut that down before it turns into something else. So it's kind of a balance in the overthinking kind of category.
Kind of like thinking things through all the way.
Yeah.
You feel like that's something you've done all the time, or is that like a practice you've had to teach yourself?
Oh, it's almost like it's a curse. Because like sometimes I overthink things way too much to the point where I don't act because I'm still overthinking it. So I'm still in that process of like, all right, I can still think and act at the same time. But just overthinking with like anxiety and all that stuff, it's like a gift and a curse.
It's a gift and a curse, being anxious. How do you think those things translate into your writings?
Oh, they directly affect it. That's why it's a gift and a curse, so I don't want to lose it. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose it because I can think about a subject and overthink that subject, but end up coming at it a lot of different ways, sometimes at the same time, sometimes in the same poem. Sometimes I can split one subject into two different poems because I'm thinking about everything constantly. Like, just different perspectives. I love looking at things in perspectives, like an Adam and Eve thing. Okay, we know they sinned, but like, whose fault is it? So, okay, what did Adam do? What did Eve do? What did they get punished with? So I overthink all of that, and that kind of creates different type of perspectives and everything.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that particular poem is a crowd favorite, right?
Yeah.
The Adam and Eve, like, Eve, what's wrong with you? What are some of your personal thoughts on that? Like whose fault it was?
Personally, I believe that it kind of goes back and forth. Because I would say like the punishment, the worst punishment is the person whose fault it was. Like Eve, okay, now it hurts when you give birth and all that stuff. And now you gotta be submissive. But at the same time, if Eve still would have did all that she did, but Adam didn't do what he did, we would still be cool. So it's like the fault, it lies in the result of everything. So it goes like back and forth.
More of like a we problem kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. They were supposed to be like a unit anyway, and they just strayed away, and it's kind of both their fault. But I like to play with the blame to see how the crowd's gonna react to it, especially the women. They get mad. They get real mad.
I can imagine.
I love it. I love when they get
can
mad.
imagine. Yeah. It's like, do you write poems for that reason, to gauge crowd perspective and to gauge crowd reaction?
I write certain parts in poems for that. Like when I started writing, I always wanted to do the perspective thing. I want the audience to come away learning something or knowing the subject at a different type of perspective. But as I seen other poets kind of like perform, they would say things that would get the crowd's attention. So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna write this. This is what I want to say, but I'm gonna put this line to make people kind of go crazy a little bit, so they can pay attention a little bit more. Or I'll start it like real hard, real loud, so people that's like on the phone not paying attention, like, yo, what's going on over there? Now I got you. Now you're gonna listen to what I got to say.
So when we think of things like poetic device and like metaphors and similes and ways to play with words, what are some of your favorite ways to play with words?
I like rhyming a lot. I know a lot of poets, especially like slam poets, they don't really rhyme, and that's cool. But like me, I love how words sound together. Like Eminem is one of my favorite rappers because he rhymes every word with every word. So I really like to play with how they sound and how many syllables can I go in order. Or I could put this rhyme inside of another rhyme, inside of another rhyme, then bring it back. You know what I mean? It's like a rapping type of thing, but because there's no beat behind it, you can really kind of follow it. And I just love how it sounds. So, and I've been doing it for so long, like rhyming comes natural and I can just hear it and then it just flows into what I'm saying already. So I keep that practice of like rhyming. I even tried to write a poem that doesn't rhyme and it just felt weird.
It's like, what even is that?
Yeah, like, what am I talking about?
I'm just it's called prose. It's a whole genre of poetry that doesn't rhyme at all.
I'm gonna challenge myself to kind of do it though, but I just really like rhyming.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
and that's really cool. That brings me to like what part of poetry are you the most drawn to? Be it poetry, spoken word, slam. Like, what is your lane if you have one, or title if you have one?
I'm drawn to spoken word. Just the performance aspect of it. I hate slam poetry, and I wrote a whole poem about that because that's a whole nother conversation about what they look for and what they score in, and like they don't really. That's a whole nother thing. But spoken word, it still has that feeling on it, but at the same time, it's still entertaining. It can still be real, and it's not judged on a technical aspect. You really kind of feel what they're saying, and that connection with the crowd is greater because the casual person at a poetry spot may not be a judge and like know everything, but they still can feel what you're saying, and that spoken word kind of connects with that the most.
What are some of the feelings you like to give in the poetry that you perform?
I like to shock people, not in the sense that I would say something that's just off the wall, but like, yo, I didn't think about it like that. Now I gotta reevaluate myself. Maybe I'll go about this thing a little bit differently now that I heard about it. And I like bars. You know, I'm not a bar heavy type of poet, but I like to test it out and throw something in there. Like I wrote a poem that has nothing to do about nothing, that's just all bars to see if I can do it. And people kind of like it, but I don't do it too often. But I just like getting that reaction, like set them up. Oh, that was a bar. Oh, that made me think really well. Oh, this is another perspective I ain't think about, and just put like all in like one.
Yeah. I know as a listener myself, I enjoy wordplay. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like that's one of my favorite like parts of your poetry is your ability to play on words and tell stories and things like that. So like, what does your practice for that look like? Your process for telling your story?
Telling a story, I almost come up with an idea, like what I want the audience to walk away from. And then I kind of build on top of that. Like I want them, like a poem I have is the stigma of like deadbeat dads not taking care of their children. And it's always like, oh, he's a deadbeat, he's not coming around, he's not doing anything. So I was like, okay, I want people to flip that. What if the dad is trying his hardest?
Right.
So I build on top of that. So I come from a perspective of a father trying to see their son, trying to be there for him, but the mother is being petty and keeping him away and showing that the father really cares and really wants to show the same way he's being hindered. And even from that's what goes my overthinking comes. Like I don't have any kids, so I put myself in the perspective of a father and still try to convey that message by coming at it different ways to get people to walk away like, oh, maybe I should let him see his son. Like he got a new girlfriend, but like he's kind of cool. It's just stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like even if you're not physically in the position, like you said, you don't have any kids, but you know how that feels to want to do something that somebody isn't allowing you to do. How hard do you feel it is to put yourself in the shoes of the perspective?
It's not that difficult because I put myself in the shoes of the actual emotion of it. So even though I haven't lived it, I know I've seen how it looks when certain people feel certain ways. So I was like, all right, I got this feeling. I can build on top of that and put it into a piece. And like I said, like the overthinking, I can put that self in the piece and then look at it another way, in another perspective, and see how this person feels. And it's all going on at the same time. It's actually why I call myself chaos, because that's how my mind works. It's so much stuff going on at the same time. And I just try to pull from it to make it make sense and put it on paper and perform it.
And you do a beautiful job. Let me pause and say that.
But and coming from you, that's amazing. I'm such a fan.
Because wow, it it can be hard to tell stories from certain perspectives, and it can be hard to insert yourself in something you haven't necessarily been in. But in being a man and wanting to tell these stories, what motivates you to continue?
Just getting different messages out there. Of course, there's nothing new under the sun. People make love poems all the time. People make Black Power poems all the time. But like for me to say a message, or at least a part of a message that hasn't been said before, like everyone likes a love poem, but what if you're loving the wrong person, you're in a toxic relationship? Like all that stuff that you're feeling is not good for you, so let me write a poem about that. Or like if you love someone and maybe you made some mistakes and you're trying to get back to where things were, but you're understanding that they don't feel the same way about you because they're still mad, but at the same time you're kind of frustrated, like, yo, just let me go, or what you want to do? Like those type of underlining subjects on top of a main subject, that's what makes me. So even though there's nothing new under the sun, there's like a billion other things I can talk about underneath that. So that's like a constant motivation to try to talk about a lot of things.
Picking like a different avenue of the same thing.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. How have the times affected your creativity? Speaking of motivation and staying, you know what I mean, under umbrellas and things.
It's affected it a lot, to the point where it's hard for me to write. Like because everything is so in front, like a pandemic, and then all this racial injustice going on, and I'm not thinking about nothing else. So it's like everyone, including like the protesters and the even the motivational speakers, are already speaking on it. So it's like, yo, what am I really supposed to write about? Or do y'all really want to hear this poem about Jesus right now? I mean, you probably do, but it's like, it's hard for me I'm in a writer's block, put it that way.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And speaking of hearing poems about Jesus and God and religion, do you feel like that is a space that you hold as an artist? Do you feel like comfortable being the artist to speak on God? Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I think that is needed. Like people speak about it, but people don't speak about it as strongly as they speak about other things. So I feel that I'm the person to be able to do that. Even in poems where it's not directly about God, like with the poem about the deadbeat dad, I portray the father as, yo, I want to train my son up in the way that he should go. And that's a Bible verse. So you see that kind of God-fearing person in that person, so you can kind of catch both at the same time. So, but also at the same time, it's a struggle, because a lot of times I kind of not put that to the forefront, especially when I go out to poetry spots. There's a poem I have called In the Closet. It's about a closet Christian. And I wrote that so I can perform it at places other than church. So when I do that, I challenge myself to do it, but it's like, I don't want to do that tonight. I want to do something that's going to make the crowd go crazy. So I'm still challenging myself to be that person. So I feel like I'm that, but I'm not as there as I want to be. So it's another kind of struggle. What do you feel like will push you to do it in a comfortable way?
I don't think I will be comfortable.
That's true.
But I think that has nothing to do with me still doing it. Yeah. Like, to be uncomfortable and still doing it, like, that's the point. So other than me writing more directly Christian-based type of poems, it's always going to be weird to do it when, like, the poet before you did a sex poem and now you want to talk about Jesus. It's like, yo, people ain't going to pay attention to me, but, like, that's what you got to do. You got to be...
That's the space you got to be in.
Exactly. You got to be unashamed at all times.
Period. You know? With all of the things that I feel like you've come through as an artist and challenging yourself mentally, what's a piece of advice you would give to poets and to artists and to writers?
Other than keep going and don't give up. One thing I really learned is that your poem is good. You did it at this place. Nobody really clapped for you. Nobody really went crazy over it. But there's somebody in the crowd that you touched and it's good. And you could do that same poem at another place and the crowd will go crazy. You could do that same poem the next month at the exact same place and the crowd will go crazy. I did a poem and it was about depression and anxiety. It was also struggle with putting a lot of my personal self on stage because people don't really react to it. I'm so married to it. It's like, yo, y'all don't like me or y'all just don't like the poem. I can't figure it out. But I did that depression and anxiety poem and the crowd was like, okay, that's cool. But afterwards, this guy was like, yo, you said everything that I was feeling and it helped me so much. Like, please keep doing that. I was like, all right, yeah, like this is what I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
So your poem is good.
I like that. How can people support you past this?
Just follow me on social media and like repost. That feels great. Like likes and comments and stuff, but like the fact that you've seen it and you want other people to see it, like that's amazing. That always feels great. My name is Tchaositself. This is Elevate.